Hey Cougs, welcome back to the Crimson Corner, the sports podcast that covers every sport on the Palouse and everything crimson and gray. I'm here with Manny Caldwell and Kate Simonson. How are you guys doing today?
Doing great today, Connor.
Feeling good.
All right, so we just came off the Apple Cup. A little bit of a rough time for the Cougs in this one, but there's a lot to unpack. We saw Zevi Eckhouse at starting quarterback in the place of Jackson Potter. How are you guys feeling about that choice?
I think for me personally, I'm seeing a lot more improvement in Eckhouse, so I see a higher ceiling, at least in Eckhouse, compared to Potter and Julian Duggar. I believe he showed he was a bit more composed in the pocket at least when his O-line was helping him out at least. And then he was able to get the ball to his receivers a lot more efficiently, I believe. He had some nice deep balls too.
Yeah, I definitely loved seeing him. I would have wanted to see more of him, but I also understand Potter coming in and he's a younger one, and if you want to have your younger quarterback or your senior, you want to train your younger one a little bit, but I just feel like he maybe should have gotten more time on the field before heading into the Apple Cup. I do think that he did a really, really good job, and that's what I expected kind of more of to see with him, and I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I know it didn't the outcome wasn't what we wanted, but I think overall on what the offense could have done against a really good defense, I think I was pleasantly surprised by how it worked out.
And I feel like with Jackson Potter throwing 3 interceptions against a program in North Texas, that's honestly not that impressive.
Yeah.
Versus Zevi only throwing 2 of those interceptions, and one of those was kind of in garbage time anyway.
Yeah.
Against UW, which I'm not saying they're going to win a national championship or anything, but they're a Power 4 program, and they are a good one at that. They're probably going to be at least middle of the pack of the Big Ten this year. So I think him playing at the level he did gives me some confidence going forward that we might be able to turn around. I don't know. How are you guys feeling about Zevi going into the next couple of games?
I mean, I am very intrigued to see what he's got coming up. I know with several games coming up, a lot, especially on the road, it's going to be tougher to play away from Pullman, and I'm really intrigued to see what he's able to do outside of Washington.
Yeah, again, I think it looked it looked very hopeful, and I'm again excited to see what comes. I think moving a little quicker in the pocket, I feel like he was kind of hesitant, and you would see plays even in the stands of if he got that off 2 seconds earlier would have gave us a better shot. But I think just being more comfortable in the pocket and making plays, and
Yeah, and I mean, this game was kind of a story to me of how the offense improved from last week, but how the defense regressed.
Yes.
I felt like that was kind of the story of the game. Obviously 24 points compared to 59. 24 looks like a small number in comparison, but looking at our first few games, I mean, San Diego State was great, but San Diego State's defense is not fantastic. UW's defense is definitely a step up, and so I thought the passing game felt really fluid. It was great to see Devin Ellison get some action after a guy who's been out for 3 weeks with a heel injury. It was great to see him come back. I thought Josh Meredith was playing a solid game. Tony Freeman got a few catches. Of course, Jackson Potter's favorite target, now Zevi's favorite target, Trey Lechner. He also is getting quite a bit of touches as well. But man, the defense, that just really fell back. 59 points 2 straight weeks in a row. I don't like that.
It really is a lot of defensive struggles here. It's really disheartening to see. And you can give credit to UW. You can give credit to Demon Williams. You can give credit to Jonah Coleman, to outstanding players. They obviously, I'd say Demon is even competing for a Heisman, maybe not this year, but in the future, because he's, I believe, only a sophomore now.
Yeah, I think so.
No, he will be very good for UW for a long time. But even still, for 2 straight weeks of giving up over 50 points just isn't good enough, or good at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you guys covered it, but it was just, there was nothing going on. You need to get at least one stop. You can't just keep, UW's a really good team, but I mean, you got to do your job as defense, and it just looked like there was things that weren't clicking there, and that needs to definitely very much improve, even from North Texas. And, it hasn't been just a one-game thing with a good team.
Well, one thing in particular was third downs. UW was 8 for 9 on third downs. That cannot happen. You're consistently staying on the field. You're getting more tired. You're creating more reps. It just has to stop.
And when they have a 3-headed monster like they do at Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman, and then obviously Damon Williams, there's not much you can do. And this is one of those Apple Cups where it's I really truly felt like we were a 20-point underdog. I think that's where we were at before the game. Yeah. And Apple Cups tend to be fairly competitive. Even though UW has dominated over the years, I have felt we've kept ourselves in games. Last year, I think we defied the odds as well, even though our team ended up being better overall than UW. But this one just, even though we were within a score a couple of times, we were consistently playing 2 scores behind. And that was the hardest part, and then they just ran away with it. But I'm curious for you guys, out of those 3 guys, Demond, Jonah, and Denzel, who kind of hurt us the most? Who was the best offensive player for UW in the Apple Cup?
Oh, for me, I have to say Demond, especially on the ground. He ran all over the defense. I mean, he was able to slip by many tackles in that game. He is, again, most dual threat quarterbacks that we played against have really smoked us. You saw the North Texas game too. That also happened the same way. And I saw it again with Demond, and he was the best player on the field, in my opinion, on offense.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. But just as a team, like in general, like I honestly don't think one player really like stumped us and changed the game. I think it's just like they have, obviously I think we're going to see this more with the dismantling of the Pac-12, or like what the Pac-12 is now. I think they just have so many more resources than we do, and it's not in the same light of the Apple Cup as like it is technically an even playing field, or it was an even playing field, and now we're looking at it as like you're kind of starting to see how transfer portal is affecting us and how those differences between us and UW are really playing in. So I think it was just UW as a team was really clicking in ways that our defense was not, definitely.
Yeah, I think UW, they've just proved that overall as a team, as a program, the status that they are at right now, I mean, Jed Fish has been there for an extra season compared to Jimmy Rogers, so they have that continuity. But overall as a program, they're just in a better spot than we are right now. I hate to say it, but we are in a new era, and things are coming along. One last thing I want to touch on with you guys about the Apple Cup. Jimmy Rogers recently was talking, and he apologized for some comments he had earlier in the week where he was saying, given that UW is a program that's got $30 million versus we're a program that's not making nearly as much as that, how do you blame us for not keeping up with that, essentially, along those lines? And then he kind of walked back on those comments. But to me, that's just not an excuse.
Yeah.
You can't be saying that going into the game, right? It's the Apple Cup. Regardless of, how much you know about the history of the game, how much your players care, since half of them are coming from South Dakota State, that's no excuse. We've produced great quarterbacks before. We've been a great program in the past. So I don't know. I didn't like those comments. I'm feeling a little shaky on the Jimmy Rogers era to start off right now.
And I think that we pride ourselves on being underdogs, and to start out right off the bat with kind of, like you said, just kind of not having the hype that we always do for Apple Cup. Even if we know it's probably not going to be a good matchup, you ask people, they're always going to pick the Cougs if they're a Coug fan. We're never I don't know. You can't give excuses before you've even played. You just got to go give it your best and work with what you have. And obviously they're at a program that is doing really well right now, and we've taken a lot of hard hits, but you also got to be confident in what you have, and that's going to show your players to also be confident in what they've got, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'd say I definitely agree with what was said too, but I just think one thing to note about Jimmy Rogers, especially, again, he's won everywhere he's gone. He won a FCS title with South Dakota State, and that was 2 years ago, I believe. He's not used to losing, and I think what we see how we see in the next couple weeks of how his team will respond will really tell us what he's really capable of. Because we know what he's capable of at his best, but when he's losing, he really has to dig deep and get his guys motivated so we can keep fighting and play some competitive football.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, it's all good. But I don't know. I think you should just take over for Jimmy Rogers.
I would love to do that.
I think you should. I mean, there's some passion in your voice there.
You can definitely hear it. Yeah.
You're a true Coug fan. I don't know. I think maybe you should run the show.
I should.
I love that confidence. That was great confidence.
I'm ready for it.
Anyways, that's all we've got to talk about with the Apple Cup. Now we're going to head into our next segment, Stock Up, Stock Down. All right, we're back here doing a new segment that we've got on the podcast called Stock Up, Stock Down. This is where we've got a list of names and other parts of the Cougar roster and the Cougar football team in general, and we're just going to kind of give our basic reactions following the Apple Cup loss to UW. So just to start, guys, stock up, stock down on Jimmy Rogers. How are we feeling?
I gotta say, stock down. I mean, giving up that many points in back-to-back weeks is just not a good sign in my opinion, and I have to say, stock down.
Yeah, I would agree. I think we've talked about it a lot earlier in the episode, but just a lot of stuff that's not making me feel really confident going into the next couple games, and I'm definitely very curious to see kind of how the trajectory of the rest of his season goes.
Yeah, and for me personally, I mean, this is an easy one. I think I'm going to go stock down as well. I'm going to agree with you guys on this. Jimmy Rogers, like, I love the guy coming out of South Dakota State, but I'm a little bit at odds with him right now. I feel like the pressers just have been a lot of apologizing, a lot of just saying, oh, it's my fault, it's my fault, it's my fault. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It's great that you're taking ownership, but what are you doing about it?
Yeah.
And so I'm waiting for that to come through. But now we're going to move on to our next guy. Now, the man leading the Cougs right now, Zevi Eckhouse. How are we feeling about Zevi?
Honestly, I would have to say stock up on Zevi. I think he's shown that this past week that he's the clear number one option at quarterback right now. I've liked a lot of the throws he made, at least in the first 3 quarters of the game, and he was mostly well kept and composed, at least until the very end. But I would say stock up for Zevi.
Yeah, I would agree, stock up. I think he showed a lot of his maturity as in seniority, and he was firing on most aspects. And I think, as all of the, positions on the football team right now, I think there's work, but I think out of everything, it definitely looked one of the best, if not the best.
I think I'm going to give the hot take here, not just to be different, but I don't know. I mean, I'm going to say stock down with Zevi.
Oh, really?
And I know that he's the guy who just came in, right? He's the starter. He's the leader of this team right now. But I feel like things are going to keep going downhill with this guy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't feel confident in Zevi going forward. Now, like I said earlier, I mean, this game was good. He played against a good opponent, and I thought he showed poise. But I feel like his ceiling is not higher enough. And his floor, too. I don't feel like it's higher enough than Jackson Potter's that he should feel confident right now about his ability to keep the job going forward. Maybe, next week he's got to feel confident about having the job. So maybe in the short term, his stock is trending up a bit. But I'm going to take this from a more long-term approach, and I'm going to say his stock's going down and that one of Jackson Potter or Julian Duggar is going to take the starting job from him at some point in this season.
Yeah.
That's my take. But moving on, we're going to go to the guy who just got bumped down below him, Jackson Potter. Where are we at with Jackson Potter?
I mean, again, we didn't really see him at least in most of the main game, at least this past week. But, I mean, I would still have to say probably stock down simply because of last week's performance. And, I mean, you only put up 10 points in a game. I mean, that's, dreadful, to say the least. And I just simply am not really impressed with Potter. He's trying to make more of the dual threat quarterback work, and it's had, mixed results, to say the least.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of in the middle, like you were talking about. I think he's young, and so I definitely can see potential there. So I don't want to necessarily be like down completely. Let's not see him for the rest of the season. I think that depending on where we are as a team, I think we can fit him in when we need him and see what he's got, because I don't think it's, completely over with that. And I do want to see what he has and what he could grow into as a player, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, like, for me, his popularity is definitely going down. That's definitely the thing. And he got overtaken by Zevi, and so Zevi's got the starting job now. But I'm gonna remain with you as well. I'm feeling like it's very middling right now, right? Yeah. I don't think Coach Rogers is out on him yet, especially because he's the guy that he went to originally starting the season. This just feels like one of those up and down seasons where we go back and forth. And so I'm not sure if it may be immediately after a game it's up or down, but given a few days time now just to kind of let it sink in, I'm really feeling like he might have a chance to come back and be the starter again this season. Yeah. But next, we're going to move to the defensive side of the ball. Again, a rough area after this game, so I might kind of get an idea of what your answers are. But we're going to kind of pick it down piece by piece, starting with the Cougar D-line. Where are we at with the Cougar D-line?
Well, I mean, I will give at least some credit to the D-line for putting some pressure on Demon, especially with the sacks. But, I mean, overall, that offense was able to run all over us. So I got to say 2 thumbs, or at least stock down, very least, because it is a lot of running over them.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think in general there's things that definitely need work on everything with the defense, but I thought one of the strongest points was sacks and getting at least some pressure on the quarterback, which I was not expecting going into the Apple Cup. So I think a little bit of here and there, but I would definitely say probably down, where we're at.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to go against the grain again. I'm going stock up with the Cougar D-line. I think the issue was the linebackers in the secondary with their open field tackling, right? That was the biggest issue. Jonah Coleman gets out in the open. Damon Williams gets out in the open. And if those guys are ready to go, only 5 or 6 yards maybe per carry. But a lot of these carries end up being 15, 20 yards because those guys can't tackle.
Yeah.
Remember, first play of the game, big sack. Next thing that happens is a secondary breakdown, right? And also when they were inside the 5 that one time, Damon Williams gets sacked. Everybody's hyped. And then he throws that little dot to the back of the end zone to Denzel Boston. To be fair, very difficult catch, very difficult throw. But still a secondary problem. So that leads me into the next thing, the secondary. Where are we at with the secondary?
That stock is going so down, it's going to cause a market crash in my eyes. It was dreadful, to be honest. Again, like you said before, missed tackles, just bad reads in general, just not great footwork. It was dreadful, to say the least. I've said the word dreadful so many times. I could say it again. It was dreadful. They just have to be better.
Yeah, I think there's not much to say except down, and let's keep working and get better. But definitely the dark area of our team for sure right now.
I'll just put it simply. The comparison for the Cougar secondary is the 2008 recession.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Last one. I'm going to just jump straight into the Apple Cup rivalry as a whole. How are we feeling about the Apple Cup rivalry, after this game and then going forward into the future?
I mean, honestly, from what I felt, there's several different perspectives from this. From the fans' perspective, I thought it was actually quite competitive. At least it was a well-attended game, basically, essentially a sold-out game. Lots of Huskies coming over from the west side to see this game. And I still think the players, or at least are enjoying at least this rivalry as while it's still there. I don't think it's as dire as the Civil War comparison with Oregon and Oregon State. So I'm going to say stock up for this one. Just maybe for now.
I'm honestly going to say down. And I say this as a Coug family. I've grown up a Coug. Apple Cup is a huge deal in my family every single year. But I think the energy's there. I think the energy's always going to be there. But if we keep going on this track of like 2 different leagues, I think it's just not that fun anymore. And if it gets to that, I think it's fun when we're at this even playing field and we know that there's both opportunity for both teams to get the same resources. But there's just not going to be the same resources in a Big Ten. And if we can't build up the Pac-12 to something that is competitive, but I want to see it continue, but I think if it keeps going on this trajectory, it's just kind of like, because I don't think it's anything for UW to celebrate anymore. I
feel like the fans on the Seattle side just don't carry the same energy they used to either.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair worry. I'm going to say stock up just because I think you have a unique perspective being from a Cougar family. Nobody in my family is a Cougar, so I'm one of the first. And so from what I've seen so far, it's feeling like it's in a decent spot.
Yeah.
I feel like given the circumstances of the league, the league difference and the league conference realignment, I feel like they're handling it well so far, better than the OSU-Oregon rivalry. And, the fact that we're still able to sell out Martin Stadium, we still had fans coming over to this side, and the fact that people still care about the competitiveness, and even though it ended up being a blowout, I felt like the game was competitive for part of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like both programs will have their up and down years. I think we're in a spot to continue this rivalry. Yeah. But, that's enough of stock up, stock down. We sent a reporter out to the field at Martin Stadium on the Apple Cup game day just to do some reporting and to really get an on-field look at what was happening on game day. So now sending it to Madeline Wallace.
From the field level here at the Apple Cup, I'm Madeline Wallace with Crimson Corner Podcast. The tone is already set. Players are fired up, fans are piling in, and this game is going to come down to a dogfight. It's the 117th meeting between Washington and Washington State, a rivalry that dates back to the 1900s, 125 years ago. The last time these two played each other was at Lumen Field last year, and the Cougs won 24-19. Washington State Cougars 2-1 is led by first-year head coach Jimmy Rogers. He's looking to keep the momentum after last year's Apple Cup win at Lumen Field. Defense is led by quarterback Jackson Potter. He has 604 passing yards on the season. His top target has been wide receiver Tony Freeman with 150 yards. Running back Kirby Voorhees has 119 yards on the season. WSU ranks 6th fewest rushing yards in the country with 206 yards total on the season. Wide receiver Denzel Boston is another playmaker on UW offense. He has 142 receiving yards this season. We just found out that Debbie Eckhouse is named the starting quarterback for this game. Is that the right decision? We'll find out. UW will be receiving the ball first. Let's see what WC defense can do to try to stop their run game. At half, UW is up 24-10. Let's give you some halftime stats. Debbie Eckhouse is 11 for 14 with 111 passing yards. He has 1 interception as well as 1 TD. Leading receiving yards is wide receiver Devin Ellison. His first game back after he was hurt the last 3 games. He has 44 receiving yards. For UW, Desmond Williams Jr. is 9 for 11 with 152 passing yards. He has 1 touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown. He's also leading the Huskies in rushing yards. One highlight for WSU is they held running back Jonah Coleman to only 27 yards this whole half. The final score from this Apple Cup, UW 59, WSU 24. From the sidelines, the energy tells the full truth of this rivalry.
Now, we've been talking a lot of Apple Cup here in the studio, but let's send it down to our Crimson Corner crew who were at the Apple Cup before the game and got some fan reactions.
Hey guys, we're here with Aaron. And Aaron, I want to ask you, if you could play football, what position would you play?
If I could play football, I got to go with tight end. I'm a big guy. It just fits my build.
I would like to kick the ball really far across the field. I don't know what that's called, but I know that I like it when they do that.
Gotcha, yeah.
I would probably say I'd like to be a kicker because you're not really as much in the action, but you still get to make your moment.
Who on this team kind of in the early season, again, it's only been 3 weeks, but who so far has kind of been standing out to you that you didn't think was going to really stand out to you?
Well, so Isaac Terrell is like one of their defensive ends who has like kind of had like a somewhat consistent role over the last couple of years, but hasn't really like broken out yet. So he had a sack and a half against San Diego State a couple weeks ago, 1 for a safety, obviously. So I don't think he's been like a giant surprise, but he's been waiting for his turn to kind of break out, and he's definitely been doing that so far this year. So I think I'd have to go with him.
I think for me, it would have to be the receiver, Carter Pass. He's just had a kind of like breakout season that he was not on my radar when I was doing some kind of preseason stuff, talking about July and August, thinking about like Josh Meredith and some of those guys. Those were really in my head and kind of reminiscent of like Kyle Williams and those guys last season. So he's definitely had a breakout season and super excited to watch and hopefully score some touchdowns today. Yeah.
I got to go with Jack Ellison at the middle linebacker position. I think he stood out to me because even though the game last week didn't go very well for Washington State, he was giving an effort on every single play. He had 4 tackles against the Mean Green, and he's hopefully going to have a big role today against the Huskies.
So far this year, there's only been 3 weeks, but what's your favorite moment from the Cougs so far this year?
I think I would have to go just like with the season starting and Jackson Potter running out there, because we had spent so much time like wondering who it's going to be, who their starting quarterback's going to be, and like I wrote a million words about like the options and like what direction they might want to go with it. So I think for me, just like having that finally come to a resolution, it was nice. Just so we know, obviously they could go in a different direction before this game, but just having that come to an end after such a long saga was fine. Yeah.
And what is your favorite all-time Apple Cup moment?
All-time Apple Cup moment. I always like seeing the bands. I like talking to them. I like hearing them, and I like being in the moment. Well, I've been on several different roles at this rivalry. I was in the marching band while at school here, and then I covered it last year, and I'm covering it this year as a professional, neutral press. And so, but I got last year. If there's a crimson bone left in my body, it's dormant right now.
Yeah.
But it was a little bit activated wast year when Wazoo won that game 24-19 in Seattle at Lumen Field, and Cowthorne's goal line stop. Like just as like a football appreciator, as like someone who has like followed the Cougs for a while, it was a you can recognize the significance not only to program history but to the fans who got to see that and experience that. So
one of my favorite Apple Cup moments over the years, I actually have a lot of connections to Apple Cups. My dad actually played at Washington, so Apple Cup's a big rivalry in our household. But I think favorite memory for me was not our win last year, but actually back in 2021 when the Cougs beat the Huskies in Husky Stadium. Anytime we can come to Seattle, especially when we're in our whites, I love that. And a huge win over in Seattle after UW. Love to see it every time.
Favorite Apple Cup moment? It was 3 years ago at Husky Stadium when the Cougs thought they were going to win and knock us out of the Natty competition, but we ended up beating them, as we usually do.
In 2022, when we were last here, Beavs were playing the Ducks, and there was some real Coug Huskies solidarity against the Ducks there. That was a pretty good moment when I think the Beavs beat them that year, and the whole stadium let out a cheer. It was really cute.
I like it. Okay, thank you so much. Dubs down. Go Cougs.
All right, we're back in studio here at the corner, and we're going to do another new segment called Must Win. So we're going to go through the Cougar schedule covering all sports, all the fall sports that are happening, and we're each going to pick a must-win game that we think the Cougs really need to win. It's important, and that's going to really determine the outcome of their season or their momentum going forward. So for me personally, I'm going to pick the Husky Invitational Tennis Apple Cup. That's starting in the first week of October. I personally have not been keeping up too much with tennis, but our tennis team last year was great. We came through. We won the NIT, right, of the tennis tournament. Yeah. So we came in, won the NIT. That was great. And we've produced All-Americans before. We've had a successful program in the past. The key to me here is just showing it to UW. It's as simple as that. Not every sport is getting the opportunity to play UW this year. And so I think it's important to continue that tradition, even if it's not football. So winning it on the hard court down by the rec center, I think is going to be key. So hopefully the Cougs pull it through there. And, yeah, we need another Apple Cup win after this Apple Cup loss with football.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back onto football here. I'm going to say not necessarily both, but one of the OSU games at least I think we need to win, especially, losing a big rivalry this past week. I think it's going to be big for fans and for the team to just kind of get another one of those rivalries on our belt. And just I think it's a fun one, and it's one that could kind of have an Apple Cup vibe to it again, and just kind of, a Pac-2, it's fun. It was really fun, even the last 2 years, just having those OSU games. And, we took a big loss last year, which was tough to see. So, kind of bouncing back from that and bouncing back from the Apple Cup, I think those are going to be 2 really good games.
I like that. Good pick.
And for me, my must-win game is going to go to volleyball. It will be October 4th against Gonzaga. That's going to be a huge one. Wazoo Volleyball is playing Gonzaga at home. Both teams are playing very well this year. They're at the top of the WCC standings before, at least as conference play is going to be ramping up here. I remember last year they trounced Gonzaga in at least a sweep at home last year, and it will be key to at least keep that Gonzaga-Wazoo rivalry forming up, especially as we get to the other sports.
Yeah, especially with how basketball's looked, and it's just, last year was kind of a beatdown. I mean, the first game was good, in Spokane was not bad at all, but this last one just wasn't great here in Beasley. It was sold out, quote unquote. I mean, I guess it was kind of close, but not quite. A lot of those fans left the building after maybe 10 minutes of the game.
If that,
Yeah, so winning in some of these other sports, we can take care of in soccer. Volleyball's another one where we should be able to take care of business. We need to show it to the Zags somehow, so I think that's a good pick as well. But that's going to do it for this episode of the Crimson Corner. Thank you guys so much for being on this episode. And, go Cougs, baby.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, Connor, to be on here. Go Cougs.
Yeah, go Cougs.